This is the second annual Florida Marathon. Before we go birding, we're going to see if a birdman can take on some of these athlete junkies. I'm all ready to go. I've got my athletic shoes on, but I've been told that before you run, you got to stretch. So here goes. This is going to be a breeze.
Welcome to the Florida Marathon and Half Marathon. We want to wish all the runners good luck and have a great race today. Get set, go!
I'm winning the Florida Marathon. Let's go birding! Let me tell you, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Enough of this torture. Let's go birding.
Now is the time of your life. Oh, now is the time. It's a sweet ride to the end of the line. Now is the time. It's the right time to come alive. Now is the time of your life. Oh, now is the time of your life.
Smoking ponies. Did you see that bird? This is the perfect habitat for this bird. Yeah. That's what I call birding. Awesome. That's our golden bird. This is the Red Wing restaurant, and we're here enjoying a great Florida delicacy, alligator tail. This is going to be awesome. I guess now all I need to say is it tastes like chicken, right? This week we're in beautiful Lake County, Florida, looking for our golden bird, the Florida scrub jay. Lake County is steeped in history. The downtown areas of Mount Dora and Eustis have these historical buildings, and the streets are lined with art and antique shops. You know, Lake County doesn't boast the largest post box in the world, or the hugest shopping mall, or the longest roller coaster ride. The attributes of Lake County are really due to Mother Nature itself. What makes Lake County such a great destination for birding is its diversity of ecosystems. Lakes, rivers, marshes, dry prairie, pine flatwoods, and scrub habitat, to name but a few. Before we went looking for the scrub jays, we just had to experience some of the hospitality that Lake County has to offer. I'm often reminded by people that Florida is an area of urban sprawl that's as flat as a pancake. Well, let me tell you, nothing can be further from the truth when it comes to Lake County, Florida. We experience beautiful rolling hills, crystal clear lakes, lots of wooded areas. It really reminded me of the Lake District in the UK. Lots of history, lots of culture, lots of scenic beauty, but without the nasty weather. After my exhausting experience attempting and pretending to win the Florida Marathon, we really needed some downtime and some R&R. And what better way to do this than to spend some time on the lakes themselves. This is Lake County at its best. We are in the county of lakes, so it's only fitting that before we go birding, we spend a bit of time right here on the water. I'm here with Bill. He's got a beautiful, old, special antique boat, and we're gonna head out and see the sights. Let's hit it, Bill. This is another birding adventure. This Hutchinson 24 is such an amazing boat. Here we are, cruising down Lake Dora. This boat was built in 1939, which happens to be the same year that Bill was born. Very special boat and very special place. You know, I love chasing rare birds and looking for rare birds, but birding's also just really great to spend time looking at some of the more common birds, like this great blue heron right here on the side of the lake. It really is therapeutic to go bird watching. You can get a kind of meditative feel about bird watching. It really can be a very peaceful pastime. We've got a magnificent bald eagle circling above us here on Lake Dora. This was a bird that 30, 40 years ago in the United States was incredibly threatened. And thank goodness today they're making a great comeback, and Lake County remains one of the best places to see bald eagles in the world. We also took a great cruise down the Dora Canal, which was out of this world, so scenically beautiful. The Dora Canal is a haven for aquatic bird life. This historic waterway links Lake Dora with Lake Eustis, and it used to be called the Elfin River. If we look on the sides of this river, it is flanked by these towering cypress trees, some of which are well over 1,000 years old. Looking at this backdrop, it's not hard to see why some authors have written that this waterway is the most beautiful in the world. Hey you all, I'm on the Inland Lakes Railways. I'm driving a train. Let's go birding. The enlightening thing about this particular trip was that we got to experience two very different perspectives on the habits of this, the only Florida endemic bird. First, we headed out to the marvelous Florida Scrub Jay Trail, where we got to see the bird in an unusual residential area where the birds are just trying to survive. We then headed out with researcher Ralph Risch at the Seminole State Forest, where we experienced the birds in their pristine natural scrub habitat. The Browns were our hosts at the charming Florida Scrub Jay Trail, just outside Claremont, Florida. The Browns really need to be commended on doing a highly respectable job of ensuring that their family of Florida Scrub Jays on their property thrives. They're doing some great work clearing citrus groves and restoring the habitat to pristine scrub. When we arrived the first morning, we didn't actually see the birds, and this is quite unusual. Kathy was saying to me, you know, the visitors always see them. I don't know whether these birds were camera shy or what, but we spent 3 or 4 hours looking for the Florida Scrub Jays and came up empty-handed. But when we returned in the evening, the Scrub Jays repaid us for our persistence. And one of the bolder birds actually came and landed right on my shoulder and on my hand. This group has made its way out for the day. These intelligent birds are incredibly social, and groups are made up of a dominant pair and their helpers, normally the young from previous years. In this group, there are 3 birds, and normally one bird will stand guard, watching for predators like hawks and snakes. They're feeding on pretty much anything they can get their bills on: mice, frogs, insects, lizards, and acorns. Florida Scrub Jays will bury literally thousands of acorns a year, their personal favorite food. And we've just seen one doing just that. Right here is a cache of acorns that these Scrub Jays have buried. And they are pretty good at finding these. Up to 80% of these acorns will be found, but 20% will be forgotten. And in this way, the Florida Scrub Jay actually succeeds in propagating scrub oaks, just like this little scrub oak right here, and ensuring the survival of this ecosystem for years to come. These orange groves are habitat that the Scrub Jay has had to adapt to. And This is not a normal circumstance, but in areas where their scrub habitat has disappeared, these scrub jays will make their home in these citrus groves. The trees afford them great protection from predators, and the trees are very similar in height and bulk to the scrub oaks which are found in their normal habitat. Now, citrus groves that are sprayed with pesticides and that are highly managed are not good for these scrub jays, and it's only in these groves that are not sprayed and that are almost kept in a more natural state that these scrub jays will be able to thrive. And what the owners of this property are doing is great to see. They are turning over their property, their private land, into prime scrub habitat. They are rehabilitating old orange groves and turning it back into the pristine habitat that it used to be many years ago. And this will be a superb home for these scrub jays that right now are struggling to make an existence here in Central Florida.
On a local level, what's important in any area that you're in is if you can plant the proper trees, the scrub trees and things like that, if you don't use the pesticides, if you don't have your animals outside loose, your cats, your dogs that can go ahead and harm the jays, then each and every one of us in our areas can go ahead and little by little that acreage becomes good habitat for the birds. And that's so important. This is Florida's only endemic bird. And it's so important to hang on to that extra special species that we have here.
There's been a really interesting debate raging about what should be the state bird of Florida. It is currently the mockingbird, which also happens to be a bird that is the state bird of many other states. Wouldn't it be fitting if the Florida scrub jay could one day become the state bird of Florida? If you like your sleep, don't become a birder. We've had a great evening at the Farnsworth House Bed and Breakfast. It's early in the morning. We're heading out to the Seminole Forest to go birding. Bordering Seminole State Forest lies the crystal clear waters of the Wekiva River. We went out kayaking on the river looking for water birds. It's great birding from a kayak because you're using stealth and the element of surprise to sneak up on some of the birds. Let's go see what we can find. That's an anhinga flying off from the bank. They're also called a snake bird because of their long neck. Nice little blue heron on the river. He's one of the heron species that are fairly active in their hunting techniques. They wade around in the water looking for little minnows to stab at with that bill. The great blue heron nesting right at the top of that cypress tree over there. And herons were very threatened in Florida at the turn of the 20th century when herons were hunted extensively for the millinery business. And it was very fashionable to wear a hat that had heron's feathers in it. Thankfully, these birds are protected today over much of Florida, and we're seeing them in great numbers again. This is Florida scrub habitat, and it's characterized by very sandy, nutrient-poor soils, and it is also susceptible to fires that move through the area and long periods of drought. The dominant plants in this ecosystem that try to eke out a living in this harsh habitat are plants like this wiregrass over here and this sand live oak behind me. Now, one would think that very little could live in such a harsh environment, but one bird does just that. Walking through this forest, I have literally stumbled across a species of special concern in Florida, the Gopher Tortoise. Let's go get a closer look. Look at him at the entrance to his burrow. Sitting there, they only come out when it gets warm. It's about 80 degrees today, in the middle of winter, and we're very lucky to see him out of his burrow. These burrows will extend up to 30, 40 feet in length. They'll be 10 to 12 feet down under the ground, and they're unique amongst the tortoises because they're one of the only tortoises that burrow. Look at those front legs, like little spades, which enable them to be excellent tools for digging. The reason why they've declined over much of their range is with roads and development and infrastructure, a lot of these tortoises have lost their habitat and also been killed crossing roads. This is a species which cohabits areas with Florida scrub jays. These sandy soils on these scrub mounds are exactly where gopher tortoises are found. I literally stumbled across this guy walking, looking for Florida scrub jays. Our last stop on the Florida scrub jay search was the Great Florida Birding Trail site, Seminole State Forest. We went out with researcher Ralph Reisch, who taught us a lot about the ecology, habits and conservation of Florida scrub jays. He does extensive research on these birds, and the particular family of Florida scrub jays that we were filming had a special allure for him because he needed to band one of the members of these three birds. We actually spent some time trying to trap a family of Florida scrub jays, as Ralph wanted to band one of the individuals in this group that had gone unbanded at the previous trapping. These birds were so intelligent. We had the cage set out and we'd put these peanuts perfectly positioned inside the cage and a few outside the cage to lure the birds in. The birds would constantly pick up the peanuts outside the cage and just wouldn't go into that cage. And time again, they would get really close, pick up that last peanut, fly away, and they would wait for us to put out another peanut outside the cage without going in the cage. Very, very clever, but very frustrating for us. We didn't actually get to catch one of the Florida scrub jays, but Ralph gave us an excellent demonstration of how to band a Florida scrub jay when he actually catches one.
To keep track of the birds, we have to know each and every individual bird, or as close to it as possible. To identify individual birds, we have to put color bands on their legs. The color bands involve one metal band, which is provided to us by the U.S. Geological Survey's Bird Banding Laboratory in Patuxent, Maryland. In addition to that, I have 3 color bands put on the leg of each scrub jay that I capture. Now, the equipment that is used for the banding involves several sets of pliers. It involves 2 types of plastic bands. Other equipment that is used is a scale for weighing the birds, bags for holding the birds while I'm waiting to band them or while weighing them, a caliper for measuring certain morphological features, and 2 types of rulers, one for measuring the wing chord, which is the distance from the wrist of the bird to the end of its primary feathers, and a small ruler for measuring the tail length.
The research of Ralph and the Browns is vital to establish why, even today, Florida scrub jays are declining in more counties than they are increasing. In Florida, we're very privileged to have Florida scrub jays on our doorsteps. Let's keep it this way. The answer to the demise of the Florida scrub jay lies right here, its habitat. Because Florida scrub jays live exclusively on higher, well-drained soils, these areas are also much sought after by developers and citrus growers. And it's this disturbance of its habitat and this urbanization that has led to the downward spiral. In addition, urban sprawl has brought with it pesticides, cats, and roads, further threats to their survival. One thing about Florida scrub jays that we know for sure is that they are extremely site faithful and very unlikely to move off to another area if their habitat is disturbed. So it's vital for the preservation of this amazing bird that we really look after their habitat and make efforts to restore Florida's habitat to the beauty that it once was. Through the assistance provided by private landowners and volunteers, this is really going to make a difference in the life and the future of our golden bird.